I've developed this video for you to help you take care of the turtles and tortoises you might have. I've been taking care of these critters for about 12 years now, and I've gained a certain amount of knowledge about them, which I'd like to share with you, which will prevent, hopefully, things like this from happening in the future. It all started many years ago when we were children, and we would buy a little turtle for 25 cents at the fair or at a pet shop. And we'd buy a plastic bowl like this and put the turtle in the bowl, and 2 weeks later the turtle was dead. And no one knew why the turtle died. Well, I'd like to tell you why the turtle died. First of all, you don't keep turtles on sand. That's very, very bad for them. Ant eggs had no nutrition whatsoever. I'm sure you'd put the plastic bowl by the window, and filtered sunlight is not good for a turtle. They need unfiltered light, not through the glass, because the glass filters out the ultraviolet rays. For food, we either gave them ant eggs, as I said before, or hamburger, which is the worst thing you can feed a turtle, or a piece of wilted lettuce. And you couldn't expect an animal to live in a setup like this very long. They need much more room to swim. Unfortunately, today, the same thing is going on. People are buying turtles, namely box turtles, okay? This is a wild animal from Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. They'll buy an aquarium that's meant for fish, take the turtle and plunk it in the aquarium and expect it to live a happy life. Well, within a month, the turtle is dead. Also, another setup people use is the old cardboard box. Shredded newspaper in the bottom, a piece of wilted lettuce for the box turtle to eat, and they're meat eaters, and a shallow dish of water, which is usually all dried up. And the turtles in the cardboard boxes don't last very long. Usually these boxes are in the corner of a bedroom, just sitting there. No one pays any attention to the turtle after the first week. So I would like to show you how to take care of your turtles and tortoises the right way. Well, there's the little turtles. Now you have to agree that a setup like this makes a lot more sense than something like this. All you need is a child's wading pool, a floating log, a place to hide, which is nothing more than an old flower pot, and the turtles have a beautiful home in which to grow. And instead of ant eggs, you should give them live food to eat, like little worms, which you can dig up from your yard, or you can buy them. They're sold for fishing. And little roly-poly bugs. The more live food you can give a turtle or tortoise, the better off he'll be. Because in the wild, no one comes around with plates full of food for them. They're on their own. Now, I'll just take this out because they do like to hide, and indeed they should have a place to hide. Because at this size, they're very vulnerable to predators. Birds can come and take them, and dogs, not usually cats. They also should have a place to climb out to sun themselves. Very, very important. Turtles need a minimum of 2 hours of natural sunlight a day for their shells. Otherwise, they get soft shell or fungus all over them, and it's not very pretty. These little red ear sliders are now illegal to buy in the United States because of the salmonella scare years ago. But this little guy and his brothers and sisters were born in Los Angeles at the home of my good friend Betty, who has many, many turtles. And they're doing quite well up here. I want to tell you also to always wash your hands thoroughly after handling any turtle or tortoise, because you never know if they could be carrying a disease. So to be on the safe side, scrub those hands. So if you treat these little guys right, they'll grow and you can have them 40 to 50 years. To me, they're heirlooms. Come on, here's your bugs. Now, bigger turtles need bigger pools, and this is the largest wading pool you can buy for children of this type. if you notice, I have it on a slant. And that's because we want it deeper on one end and shallower on the other. It's easier to clean this way, and the turtles can climb up on the dry end and enjoy themselves in the sun. For cover, this is just an old pail with a doorway cut out. And I have a smooth log in there for them to climb up on. You don't want any rough logs because they can scratch their shells and their skin. I've had this pool set up for 10 years and the turtles are very healthy and they do enjoy it. This is another pond setup you can try. Not very elaborate, but it's a little deep, so if you have other box turtles around, they might fall in and not be able to get out. So it's a good idea to put a wire along the outer edge there, so if they do fall in, they can climb out and not drown. Also, you could put some rocks on the side for them to climb up on, and they can get out easily. That beautiful turtle you saw climbing out a little while ago recently came out of a meat market where they were selling them for soup. These are the popular Reeves turtles, also known as Japanese coin turtles. They don't get much larger than this. And if you'll notice, this poor little gal only has 1 foot. I have no idea what happened to the other 3 feet. But she does quite well. Her food has to be cut up small so she can bite it, because turtles normally will rip food with their front claws. I might add that turtles cannot eat unless they're under the water. I put the Reeves in a setup like this because I'm hoping that they'll breed for me. What I did here is take a leaky pool. It should be leaky because in the winter when it's raining you don't want it filling up to the top with water. And I put some dirt in the bottom about 1/3 of the way up, added some logs, rocks, and sunk a kitty litter pan down. And I also added a dog house and a few plants for cover, non-poisonous of course. And the Reeves turtles can go in and out of the water at will. I can feed them on the dirt and they will grab the food in their mouths and jump into the water and just go to town eating. I've added rocks on the side of the pool so they can climb out easily. The turtles also hibernate out here, and what I do is cover the area where they're sleeping in the water with another pool so that it remains cool and dark all winter. Another thing you might want to watch out for is not to put plants too close to the edge, because they will use the plants as a ladder and just climb right up and fall out and go running across your yard. I'm very much against small turtles running loose in the yard because you can run them over with a lawnmower, and that's not a very pretty sight. A lot of people have seen this setup and liked it so much that they went home and built one of their own. You can also keep box turtles in an enclosure like this, and they can stay in it all year. Just make sure again that the pool is leaky so it doesn't fill up with water during a heavy rain. When you keep turtles or tortoises, you should make sure you have a large enough area for them to live in. An aquarium is not suitable. I believe if you can't keep them in a natural type area, you shouldn't keep them at all. Now what I've done here is what I think imitates what their natural area would have looked like. There's plenty of places to hide, lots of water around, lots of plants to climb under. Some of the plants are edible. Nothing is poisonous. You must have rocks for them to walk on because that keeps their nails trimmed down. I feed them right on the dirt because I feel that it's a natural thing for them to eat dirt. There's logs that they can climb up on. And none of them ever appears to want to get out of this enclosure. People always ask me, Felice, your turtles are so happy. And I feel they're happy because they think they're home. Box turtles have their own likes and dislikes as far as choosing partners. And it's interesting to see a male walk by several females before finding the one he likes. When it's very hot in the summertime, I use a fine mist from the hose to imitate a thunderstorm. And you'd be surprised how much the box turtles appreciate this. They all come running out and they start drinking from the puddles and start hunting for bugs and worms on their own. And it's just very important that they have places to hide and not be trapped. I lost a little turtle last year who became trapped under a rock. Normally it was okay, but another turtle had jammed him in there and he couldn't get out. And even though I was here, I didn't see it until it was too late. You might notice the fencing I have around here. This is 2-inch square, which I recommend. If you use chicken wire, the turtles use that as a ladder and just climb right up and go right over. If you use 2 by 3-inch mesh, the turtles can turn themselves on their sides and go right through. But they don't seem to climb up on this at all. As long as they can see through, they seem happy. I've had this area set up for many years, and something quite interesting happens with the change of the seasons. In the fall, all of the turtles and tortoises migrate this way as the weeks and months go by. Like September, they come a little closer. October, they're a little closer. And finally, November and December, most of them go into this doghouse, or they dig holes right in this area. In fact, there's one hole left that I haven't filled in yet. Now, I used to tell people not to let them hibernate in the ground, but a few years ago, we had quite a flood here, and what I discovered was all the box turtles that were under the ground, I didn't know they were under there. They all came up. So now I don't advise people to dig them up and put them in the house. Just leave them. They know what they're doing, and if it floods, they will come up. The area where your turtles and tortoises live should get sun most of the day. Now, what we're looking at here is a nursery. If you're lucky enough to hatch your eggs, well, then you're going to have to put your baby somewhere, and in the house is not good enough. In the winter, yes, but in the summer, no. And what we have here are 2 hatchling Herman tortoises. They're 2 years old now, and you can see the different rate of growth, even though they were born on the same day. And we have some baby box turtles, also about 2 years old now. But they have to live in here until they're big enough so that they can't fit through the fence on that side. And when you build a nursery, it should be a miniature version of your larger enclosure, but it should be heavily planted. Otherwise, you're going to have to cover it because birds can pick the babies up and take them away. So put non-poisonous plants in, put rocks in and logs, and also a shallow dish of water, but add some rocks in there so that they can climb out because they can drown rather easily. I put this box turtle in here because he's hard, he's hard to find sometimes. This is a golden-headed box turtle. And I've seen these in pet shops sold as water turtles. Sometimes they call them humpback turtles, and a lot of them die because nobody knows how to take care of them. But the care is exactly like your regular box turtle. It can live out here all year long. It takes the frost. It will hibernate, and it eats worms and snails and bugs. And a lot of them like bananas. So try and give your turtles and tortoises as much variety as possible. If you can't buy fresh, buy frozen. Don't buy canned because it's too salty. Tortoises need to go into a shelter at night, so I provided several dog houses throughout the yard. Wooden houses are best up off the ground. If your tortoise does not use the house you provided, check out where he's sleeping at night and then move the doghouse to that spot, and he should go into it. This is a California desert tortoise. They have lived for millions of years in the Mojave Desert. Everybody loves these tortoises. Everybody wants one of these tortoises. But I hate to tell you this, they're becoming extinct in our time, and the Fish and Game Commission is very slow to put them on the endangered species list. They're declining because their natural habitat is being taken over by off-road vehicles, sheep grazing, mining going on there, and the whole area is becoming a disaster as far as the tortoises are concerned. Now, these tortoises have a gular in the front here, and the males use that in the desert and in your backyard to turn one another upside down because they do like a good fight. And if this happens in your yard and you're not there, the tortoise will be dead within a half an hour if it's out in the sunshine. If it's in the shade, it has a chance of making it. So you never want to have more than one male in your yard unless you're there constantly to watch. The feet resemble elephant feet. Their skin is quite tough, but they are very fragile animals. In captivity, they are very susceptible to runny noses, and there really is no cure available at this time. If the runny nose is clear and the animal's eating, we really don't worry about it. But if the animal stops eating and starts losing weight and the stuff coming out of its nose turns white, then you might want to consult a veterinarian about it. But otherwise, we just leave them alone. They like to graze. You should give them a lot of grass, fresh grass, and even dry grass. And you shouldn't let your fingers go in their mouth the way mine just did. They love dandelions, and zucchini, and broccoli. I use frozen mixed vegetables for the variety of it. And naturally, you can't take an animal like this and put it back in the desert. So once it's removed, it's captive forever. And that's especially true of any hatchlings that are born in captivity. They can never, ever go back to the desert. Come on. You'll notice they smell something many times before they take a bite, which I always thought was very interesting. They don't normally drink, but it's wise to have a bowl of water around the yard at all times in case he wants a drink. A lot of times they like to drink out of the hose running near them. It's more natural, like a sudden rainfall in the desert. And now he's eating some grass, which is the best thing for him. It's a natural food. They don't eat meat, and they shouldn't eat meat because their bodies are not geared to digest meat products, as far as I know. Obviously, you can't put an animal like this back in the wild because he's too tame, and he'll just sit there waiting for somebody to come along and feed him. Also, most tortoises in captivity are diseased, and if you put it back into the wild, it might make the whole wild population sick, so you don't want to do that. And once a captive, always a captive, so take good care of it. Keep it dry. It's a desert animal, cannot be wet. There is no area in the United States like the Mojave Desert. So you do the best you can. Let the tortoise tell you what it wants. And they're very good at that if you're aware of what you're looking at. The desert and Texas tortoises are protected by California law, and you need a license to keep one. So when you send to the Fish and Game, you will get a tag like this, and you place it on the back of the tortoise's shell. What I like about the tag is that if the tortoise ever gets out of your yard and is running down the street, this is the only way he can be traced back to you. This is a Texas tortoise. They don't grow much larger than this. They're also becoming extinct in our lifetime, unfortunately. This is a little female. You can tell it's a female by the flat plastron and the tiny little tail. Males always have concave plastron and a larger tail. What you're looking at is a tortoise named Just Jim. When Just Jim was a little boy, apparently his leg was torn off by a dog, his shell was chewed up, and he was in a fire. That's why he looks the way he is. He's a very naughty tortoise, as you notice from what he was just doing here. He beats everybody up that crosses his path. And I think it's probably due to his childhood trauma. He came here disguised as a desert tortoise. Actually, he does resemble the gopher family. And the untrained eye would think that they're the same type of tortoise. But I laughed when I saw him, and I turned him over and I saw that big tail and these little spurs here. I knew he was a Greek tortoise. Now, he's been here about 7 years, and he has never stopped being this vicious towards other animals. So he spends a lot of time in solitary confinement because this is very upsetting to the other tortoises. Not only will he ram them like that, he'll also bite their back feet until they bleed, see? So we can't have any of that going on around here. So Just Jim spends his time alone, and I think he's happy about that because he doesn't need to be upset either. Everybody loves him in spite of his bad habits, don't we? We love you. We know you've had a rough life. This is Clyde. He's an elongata, an elongated tortoise. They originate in Sri Lanka. He's about 20 years old, and what you see hanging out of his mouth is a snail. He can eat over 30 snails a day. You can tell he's a male. It's quite obvious. I mean, look at the size of his tail, which he keeps tucked under. I don't let him hibernate because I'm not sure they hibernate in their natural habitat. If you don't know where your animal comes from, don't let it hibernate. This is Clyde's wife, Claire. I believe she's a little older than he is, maybe about 35. Now you can see that she's a female by the flat plastron and this much smaller tail. Clyde and Claire last fall had a child named Clancy. Now this little fellow took 10 months to hatch. I've never heard of an egg incubating that long. In fact, I had turned the incubator off thinking that the eggs were no good, but one day I went in there and there he was. This is a male leopard tortoise. I think he's about 25 years old. And of course you can tell he's a male by the size of his tail. Coming from Africa, naturally these tortoises do not hibernate. So if you have one in captivity, you better be prepared to keep it warm, very warm and dry in the winter. This is Tarzan's girlfriend, Godzilla. She's so named because she destroys everything in her path. And obviously he's in love with her. You can tell she's a female by her very small tail. Can you see it in there? Now this is a popular tortoise found in many collections. It's a South American yellowleg. And he's just a guest in my turtle hotel here. Again, you can tell he's a male by the concave plastron and the large tail which he has tucked in at the moment. Some people say they resemble a loaf of bread. This is Fat Betty, and I apologize to anyone out there named Betty who is slightly overweight. But Betty earned her reputation. She's a Russian tortoise, also called a Horsfield's tortoise. And you can see, when she pulls her head in, all this fat around her head from overeating. She's fully grown, believe it or not.
These are Hermann's tortoises. They have a bone on the tip of their tail, which the Greek tortoises do not have.
It's not a good idea to handle your turtles and tortoises too much. It's very stressful on them. Look how angry he is. I almost never pick them up. Now I'm going to put him down before he has a heart attack. They just live their lives in peace and quiet without any interference from me.
And now, here's some turtles most commonly kept as pets. Loggerhead musk turtles, trifasciatas, pond turtles, red ear sliders, painted turtles,
This is an eastern box turtle. Notice the pretty colorations on the shell. Unfortunately, these box turtles are also in a lot of trouble, and a lot of the East Coast states have cracked down on people picking them up and selling them and whatnot. This is a Gulf Coast box turtle. They're larger than the three-toed box turtles. The Gulf Coast turtle males do have a concave plastron. Three-toed box turtles do not. Notice how his beak is becoming overgrown. If you should see that happening to your turtle, you can trim that with some sharp scissors or some clippers or even a file if the turtle will let you do it. Usually this is caused by eating soft foods. So give them corn on the cob and snails, and make sure they eat on a hard surface such as the ground or even on a cutting board. That will help prevent this from happening. These are three-toed box turtles found in almost everybody's collection. This is a male and this is a female. It's very, very difficult to tell the difference when you look at their tails. But sometimes you can tell by looking at the color on their front legs and their faces. If you'll notice, the male has a lot more red on his face and front legs. And the female has yellow. Also, the males have long, thick, curved claws on the back feet.
Spring is in the air, and as you can see, turtles and tortoises have strong feelings of love for one another.
This is a Gulf Coast box turtle preparing a nest to lay her eggs. As you might notice, she's digging her nest on the side of a hill I built in here. Notice how she uses her right leg, then her left leg, then her right leg, It's just amazing to watch this. It is unusual to see a box turtle laying eggs because even though they begin digging their nests in late afternoon, the eggs aren't deposited until after dark. I might add this segment is being run unedited. Turtles do not take care of their young. Their only responsibility is laying the eggs in a suitable area. Sometimes they'll come upon a rock that can't be moved or a root, and they will abandon that site, and they won't dig again for a few days. Then they'll find another place and start all over again. After she finishes covering the hole, I will cover the nest with a rock, because in the past I found that other turtles will come along and find that this is a wonderful place to lay their eggs, and they will start digging and break all the existing eggs and then lay their eggs on top of them. Be sure to write down the date your turtle has laid the eggs. I have to admit, last year I was cleaning some weeds up around there and I noticed the rock, and then it came to me that I had put the rock on her nest. And I lifted up the rock. There were 4 babies peering up at me from the hole. One mating can result in fertile eggs up to 5 years, so don't assume the eggs are infertile. If you bought a female box turtle in a pet shop, she very well may lay fertile eggs. The box turtle eggs you saw being laid just a moment ago will stay in the ground because I haven't been able to hatch them any other way. And they'll come up between 90 and 125 days from now. But tortoise eggs will not hatch in the ground unless you live in the area the tortoises naturally come from. So you have to incubate them artificially. And here's a few ways people have had success. One is a frying pan. Put some moss in the pan, or you can use sand. Put the eggs on the moss or sand, cover it up with a lid, and keep it on low. A popular way to incubate eggs is using a styrofoam ice chest. You need one ice chest, however you need 2 lids. You take the second lid and you cut it to fit the shelf inside the ice chest. And what you do after that is you can fill the ice chest with water. Put the lid on the shelf. Take the aquarium heater and put it in the hole that you have cut out for it. And cut a little notch out for the wire too. Take a load of rubber bands and put them on the shelf. Put the eggs on the rubber bands. That's to prevent them from rolling all over the place, because once a tortoise egg is rolled, it probably won't hatch. And put a thermometer next to the eggs. Put the cover on and check the water level and the temperature periodically. Some people prefer to put the heater in a jar inside of the chest, and that's okay too. Make sure it's a bigger jar than this though. I have used the styrofoam chest with great success by not using any water at all, but I put a hot rock in the bottom because I don't think tortoise eggs need that much humidity in there. And it's worked fine. In 77 days, I have desert tortoise babies running around in here. These are Greek tortoise eggs. And this is my favorite setup to incubate Greek tortoise eggs. I have green moss, it's dry. I will lift some up, put the eggs straight down, not turn them at all, which is not an easy thing to do. Place them down, cover them with the moss. Remember, tortoise eggs do not need moisture, except maybe a little humidity. So to take care of that, I put a cup of water on the side, a thermometer on the top, keep track of that temperature, and an ordinary aquarium light on the top. What's interesting is Hermann or Greek tortoise eggs take about 56 days to hatch. What I found is that the warmer the incubator, the more girls hatch, and the cooler it is, the more males hatch. So all the tortoises I've ever hatched in here have been females because it has gotten quite warm. So sometimes I suggest that people have 2 incubators, one cooler and one warmer, and then you'll finally get a good mix of males and females. Another method people use is the margarine tub and 3 paper towels. Some people I know have also hatched box turtle eggs this way. I've tried it, but I haven't had any luck. You take a margarine tub and punch holes in the lid. Then you use 3 paper towels. You wet them and squeeze out the water as best you can. And then you put 1 piece of paper towel down on the bottom. You crumple up the 2nd paper towel and place the eggs in there. Try not to ever turn the eggs. And then take the 3rd piece of paper towel, put it over the top loosely, cover it up, put this in a warm place, and then keep your fingers crossed. People have had success using this method. This is a Hoverbator incubator. Has 2 windows for viewing the eggs. The heater is in the lid. Comes with a wire screen for placing the eggs on. There are wells in the bottom for water. For those of you who don't want to fuss with making your own incubator, this is an excellent ready-made one. Comes with a thermometer also. So use your imagination. There are many other ways to incubate eggs, and I wish you the best of luck. If you're lucky enough to have your desert tortoise eggs hatch, here's what I want you to do with them for the first winter, because we don't recommend letting them hibernate. They're just too small. In this case, aquariums are okay, because the babies need a lot of room, they need protection, and they need warmth. But first of all, they turn themselves over quite easily. And to prevent that, we use a paper bag on the bottom of the tank, and it's rolled up on the sides. This way they don't turn over as easily as they would without the paper bag. If you have newspaper in there, they just slide around on it, and it's not very good for their bones. For food, I like to give them grass and dandelions chopped up fine. And when it gets dry, leave it in there because it's good for them to eat the dry stuff, because that's what they would be eating in the desert. You can put some dirt on the paper bag, or if you want it to look neater, just put some in a dish, because it's important for them to eat dirt. Make sure the dirt is not potting soil that has redwood in it. Just dig some out of the yard and replace it every few weeks. They need a place to hide, so you can fashion a little cardboard house or a wooden house or whatever strikes your fancy. They also need to be kept warm all winter. You don't want them to get cold because they will not eat and they'll probably get sick. So what I do, I have a nest box heater. It's for rabbits. And I will slide this underneath the aquarium, just part of the aquarium, not the whole thing, because they have to be able to be warm and cool as they choose. And that keeps them warm from the bottom. And to simulate the sun and the warmth of the sun, I use a clamp-on light with a 40 or a 60 watt bulb, depending on how cold it is in your house. Very important also, you need a Vitalite for the desert tortoise hatchlings. Without this, they don't seem to develop very well. The Vitalite is a fluorescent tube. They come in all different sizes, and it should be kept on as long as the day is long. Like if the sun is up for 8 hours that day, leave the light on for 8 hours that day. And as the days get longer in the springtime, we'll leave it on a little longer. And this has, the Vitalite has the properties of the sunshine in it. They call it the sunshine tube. And it is important to use that. If you don't have access to a nest box heater, you could use a plain heating pad, but remember, just put it under part of the aquarium, not the whole thing. Besides grass and dandelions, they also will eat the foods that their parents eat. Once in a while, you can give them some dog food, but I don't recommend it more than once a month because they become very lumpy with too much dog food. And another thing I want you to remember, they're dry desert animals, so when you want to give them water, just maybe every week or 2 weeks, soak them in a little bit of water for about a half an hour or less, and then take them out, dry them thoroughly, and take the water out. You don't want the enclosure to be moist at all. You want it dry. One thing very important to remember, don't ever put an aquarium out in the sun with turtles or tortoises in it because it will fry them within minutes. Box turtle babies usually emerge in the fall. And they're quite hardy, but you don't want to leave them out there all winter. They would probably survive, but a bird or a cat or a dog could easily eat it. So what I do, when I find them in the yard in the fall, I have a shoe box ready or a plastic sweater box, or even an aquarium is okay for babies. Now I put dirt in the bottom, and I keep part of it moist. And since they do like to drink water, and it's good for them to go in water quite often, I keep a very shallow dish of water in there at all times. But don't ever have it too deep because they have been known to drown. They can't turn over once they fall upside down into it, which one is doing right now, but it's so shallow that nothing will happen. They also like to hide like their parents do, so we put logs in there and pile them up so they can hide and feel really good, and rocks so when they walk on that, their claws are trimmed down. An extra hiding place, little house. And you do want them to be warm, although not as warm as desert tortoises. So I cover it up, because if you have a family cat, they can reach in with their paw and just flip the turtles out. So it's a good idea to keep it covered. And the cover also is a good base for just a plain aquarium light with a small bulb, which you will keep on during the day. But I'd like you to turn it off at night and then use the heating pad or the nest box heater under part of this enclosure to keep them semi-warm during the night, because you don't want them getting that cold. If they're very cold, they won't eat. And speaking of food, they're very picky to begin with. It's quite difficult to get them to start eating sometimes. In fact, some are known never to eat, and that's the end of them, but that's hatchlings for you. What I feed them are small bugs, small worms, and little bits of dog food and tiny bits of vegetables and fruits, because you never know what they like. It's very difficult to raise these babies. Baby water turtles, not from tropical climates, can be safely kept outdoors all year, except for the fact that they could be carried off by birds or cats. So you want to keep them in the house for the first few winters until they're large enough to be outside. This is how I keep them in the winter. It's very easy to clean. Notice there's no sand or gravel in the bottom. Baby turtles eat bugs and worms, slugs, little snails. And if the food falls into the gravel or sand, they're going to ingest that. And in a very short time, you're going to have a sick turtle because its intestines will be impacted with the sand or gravel. So it's best just to keep it nice and clean. Always have a rock in there where they can come out and completely dry themselves. I like this because it's light, and every day or two I can just dump it out and refill it, making sure that the temperature of the water going into the pool should be the same temperature as the water you're dumping out. Now for warmth during the cold days, I add a cover over it, just like the box turtles, although this is larger, so I needed a more substantial cover. And again, another aquarium light over the rock area. And I keep this on all day, and they bask and seem to be very content in this environment until the springtime, when they can go back outside again. Tortoises of all species need a wide variety of foods in order to keep healthy. The first thing they should eat is natural food, such as grass, dandelions with the flowers. They love clover, flowers and all. Make sure when you're feeding them these things that it has never been sprayed with insecticide or pesticide, because that could kill them. And wash everything thoroughly before you feed them. Most tortoises are also fond of rose petals, which have a lot of nutrition in them. Now after they've eaten this, and they still appear to be hungry, of course you can give them lettuce. It's fine. It has a lot of water content, and the romaine lettuce has the highest vitamin A, and most vitamins are in the romaine lettuce. You can use all other lettuces, but go easy on cabbage because it's not that good for them. Zucchini is excellent. Bananas, they will eat corn on the cob. Tomatoes, apples, but don't give them the apple seeds. Too many can be poisonous. Watermelon is fine. Cantaloupe, frozen mixed vegetables, strawberries, green beans. But naturally, you don't want to just hand them an apple. It should be cut. So you'll want to get a board and start chopping. It's better to chop vegetables and fruit because it enhances the flavor and the tortoises are more likely to eat it. So chop it up as finely as you like. If you have hatchlings, you chop it up rather finely. And you can take all this and make a big mound. Some tortoises just like lettuce, so put the lettuce on the bottom. And this way, the tortoise is going to have to dig through the pile of great food to get to the lettuce on the bottom. And like it or not, he's going to be eating it all. We'll put a strawberry on the top. Make a nice mound out of it. And don't leave the food around all day long because it does turn rancid after a while and you don't want your tortoise eating that. And that's what your tortoises should be eating. Let's talk about box turtles. Do you have a box turtle in an aquarium with a piece of hamburger in front of it and you wonder why it is not doing well? Well, think. The box turtle comes from the East Coast states and the Midwest. It lives out in the woods. Now, no one comes by and gives this box turtle a plate of hamburger. The box turtles eat worms and bugs and snails, such as this. Now, I have to go through the neighborhood with a flashlight and can and gather these up. But the other day, someone dropped this on my doorstep, and I was very, very thankful. But snails are an excellent food for them. They should eat the whole snail, the shell and all, because the shell contains lots of calcium, and it's excellent for them. If it's a bigger snail, I just crack it with something, usually the palm of my hand, when nobody is looking. Another thing that they all love are worms. Now, they don't like the worms you dig up out of your yard. You actually have to go out and buy worms for fishing. Big ones, night crawlers. The bigger the better. And a good meal for a box turtle is 3 a day, but they don't necessarily have to eat every day. Now, if you don't have snails and you don't have worms that day, you could buy some cube steak. It's very low in fat. And what you do with this, take some scissors and just spend a little time one day and cut it into a lot of small pieces. You never want to give a turtle something too big because if he can't eat it, he's just going to walk away. You can also use leftover chicken, but don't use raw chicken because that's not a good idea to feed anyone raw chicken. And slugs are a delight. Box turtles love slugs, and crickets are great. Anything living you can give a box turtle to eat is to his benefit. They also will learn to love dog food, which is an excellent source of protein and all kinds of vitamins and minerals. I noticed that older box turtles don't particularly like dog food or snails or worms. They tend to eat more fruit. But in the summer, all box turtles will eat just about anything for some reason, and this goes on for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then when the weather turns a little bit cooler, they go back to their picky ways again. They're not that easy to take care of. Their appetites can change with the wind. And if they don't want to eat for a week or 2, it's okay. Just watch them. If their noses are clear and their eyes are not swollen, they're just being stubborn. So feed your box turtles right and they won't get sick. Years ago, I used to give my box turtles hamburger too, and I wondered why they were always sick. Well, since I cut out the hamburger, I haven't had any illness whatsoever. Here's what your water turtles should be eating. Now, normally they don't eat fruits and vegetables, although some do. There's an exception to every rule. But it is okay to float a leaf of romaine lettuce on the water, and curiously enough, they will eat all around the rib. So you might want to try that. I give my water turtles a cube steak, cut in small pieces, and don't give them too much. Also, smelt is excellent if you can get it with the bones. And what you do is also cut it in small pieces. I usually stand over the pool and just cut it, and they practically jump out of the water to eat this. They will devour many boxes of worms. The bigger the better. Now, water turtles really don't have to eat every day. Every second or third day is enough. Snails, they do like snails, and if the snails are too big, smash it. But leave the shell on it, it's good for them. I do feed mine mealtime dog food. We soak it in hot water first, and they turn into little sponges, and every water turtle that I have loves it. Another good food item is trout chow. These are little pellets just loaded with vitamins and minerals. It's an excellent food source for your turtle. And vary their diet. Don't give them the same thing at every feeding. You could also try calcium blocks, which is made out of plaster of Paris. We'll give you the directions on how to make this in a few minutes. I grind up eggshells, and I put them into the mixture because it adds a little more calcium to the blocks. I pour the mixture into ice cube trays and let it harden for about a week before serving it to the turtles. You can also make it this way. Just pour it out onto some silver foil and also let it harden for a week, and then you just have to break off little pieces and throw it to the turtles. I built the greenhouse after acquiring the second large leopard tortoise because the smell in my own house was incredibly bad, and my family and I could not live with that, and this seemed like a very good alternative, and it's the best thing I've ever done. Come on in and I'll show you how it works. In September, the nights start getting a little chilly, so I have to carry the animals in here for the night, and then in the morning I bring them out. And by November, they're in here permanently for the winter. I was a little afraid of the humidity, so I don't have any plants in here worth mentioning. And during the summer, the grass grows, and I water it, but they're not in here, so it doesn't matter. As fall approaches, it gets dry, and then when the tortoises come in, they eat up all the grass. As you can see, there's hardly any grass left. There was a major problem with heat. I had various heaters, but they didn't work right. I didn't want a fan blowing heat all over the tortoises because they would get runny noses. So one day I discovered this Stanfield heat mat for pigs in a catalog, and this is an excellent product. It's a hard plastic, and the heating element is within the plastic. It only uses 400 watts of power, which is much lower than what I was using in the house with all the heating pads and overhead lights and all. The only thing wrong is you can't put anything on top of it. You can't put hay or dirt because it will not heat properly. So I had my husband build an open doghouse. It doesn't have any bottom. It's just sitting on the heat pad. And that keeps them very snug and warm all winter. And this last winter, we had 20 degrees and the tortoises were having a great time. In fact, Tarzan and Godzilla were mating. For a little privacy, I put these shades down because they do like to hide. Without the shades, they were going on the side and in other places. But with the shades, in they went. And even these strings serve a purpose. When the tortoises would walk in there, they would feel that on their backs and feel very secure. If it did get a little too humid in here, all I had to do was open the windows for about an hour and the humidity would go right out and it would be dry again. But I highly recommend this. If you have a place in your yard and you can't deal with the smell, but you love your tortoises, build a greenhouse. It's worth every penny. This is Bob. He's a three-toed box turtle. And last year he had an encounter with a dog, and that's how we met. The person who owned the dog called me up screaming that there was a turtle bleeding on her doorstep. So I rushed over there, and oh, it was terrible. The dog had ripped a hunk of shell off, and the turtle's insides were hanging out. So I put him in a box and thanked her for calling me and took him home. And I cleaned the wound with peroxide. And then I took a nice bandage and taped him up and kept him quiet and dark because turtles can go into shock after an incident like that. In fact, he was just hiding in his shell for 2 weeks. He wouldn't come out, he was so frightened. And I would change the bandage every few days. And after a while, a film began forming over the open area. And now, it's been about 1.5 years. It's good and hard. So we've taken the bandage off and I let him run around here with his friends. But I'm not going to adopt him out. He's going to stay here with me where it's safe and there's no dogs around. Okay, Bob? I'd like to introduce the Colonel. The Colonel is also a Hermann's tortoise, although you'd never guess from the shape of him. He's 33 years old. He came to my yard 5 years ago. The woman who owned him bought him in San Francisco. And for 26 years, she had him in a cardboard box on newspaper eating lettuce. And this poor guy just never grew correctly. He looked a lot worse when he arrived here. His beak was about 1 inch long, and I've left some of his nails to show you. His shell is totally deformed. His body grew out of his shell all around here. His shell just stopped growing from lack of calcium. And the only way I could determine whether he was a male or female was by watching his actions. And he does chase the girls, so obviously he is a boy. For the last 5 years, he's been eating a very good diet of snails and worms and dog food and lots of fruits and vegetables, but he hasn't changed a bit. So once they become deformed like this, they never change. He has the equivalent of rickets. He can't walk properly. He just drags his legs along. His claws were twice as long. But no amount of walking on cement has gotten them down. But he's a great little tortoise. This is Tudor, who's been at my hotel for a couple of years. He's 11 years old. Now, what could have happened to Tudor? Tudor is a three-toed box turtle, and he shouldn't look like this. Well, Tudor was raised in a kitty litter pan on artificial grass. He had a leather pouch to sleep in, and all he ate was lettuce and hamburger. One thing he did get a lot of was cod liver oil, and that was my suggestion to his owner, and I'm really not sure what caused this deformity, but if it's the oil, forgive me. But a lot of other baby box turtles do become deformed like this, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's because we give them too much food. In the wild, no one places big worms in front of them or snails. They have to hunt, and they don't eat every day. So if you have a baby box turtle, I suggest you don't feed it every day. Maybe every third day. I know you want to feed it every day, you get kind of nervous, but go easy on the food to prevent this from happening. This is Rocky. It's hard to believe that he too is a leopard tortoise. And you can see by his long tail that he is a male, even though his plastron is not concave in any way. But what in the world happened to Rocky? When I saw him, I thought, my goodness, what in the world? He doesn't look like a leopard tortoise. But what I think he was born in captivity. And when animals are born in captivity, tortoises that is, we feed them too much. And this is what happens, especially if you start giving them a lot of dog food. So Rocky is totally deformed, and I don't think he'll ever look like a normal leopard tortoise. But he is a nice guy. We're all aware of the damage dogs, raccoons, and rats can do to our turtles and tortoises, but here are a few samples of what can kill your tortoises in your yard. Plastic bags, bits of plastic are very, very dangerous to have laying in the grass because the turtle can eat this and swallow it with the food. So keep that picked up. Long strings of Bermuda grass should be cut because more than once I've seen tortoises come in here with this Bermuda grass wrapped around their neck or a limb. They could lose a limb with this wrapped around it. Rubber bands can be ingested and cause a lot of harm inside the tortoise. Baggy ties can also be swallowed while your tortoise is grazing. Even dog and cat fur can injure your tortoise. Staples, nails, paper clips can cause a lot of damage if eaten. String and yarn, if eaten, can kill your turtle. Tortoises seem to have a fascination for eating little white rocks. So please try and keep them cleaned up about your yard, because if they eat enough of these, it can impact their intestines and cause a sudden death. This is what can happen if you tether your turtle or tortoise. Sometimes people drill a hole in their shell to keep them from running away and attach a wire or a long cord to them. Well, drilling a hole can lead to a serious infection. Turtles also seem to run in one direction, and the constant pulling on that hole will eventually break the piece of shell off. And if that doesn't happen, the turtle can also get this wire or cord wrapped around their head or one of their limbs, which can cause a painful injury and even death. Sometimes they can even be trapped out in the sunshine with no way to get out of it, and within a few minutes they are dead. So don't tether. Just secure your yard so they can't get out. This is cruel. Here's another example of something man does to cause a turtle's early death. Please don't paint the shell. The paint clogs the pores, gets into the cracks, and before long, it is dead. Most diseases are caused by improper diet. Tortoises are susceptible to runny noses. In some species, such as the desert tortoise, it is more serious than in others. Desert tortoises in captivity are extremely vulnerable, and a cure, if ever, does not come easily. If the runny nose is clear and the tortoise is acting normally, no treatment is usually necessary. But if the fluid becomes thick and white and the tortoise quits eating, then a trip to the veterinarian is essential. Certain antibiotics can be dangerous and cause liver and kidney damage. I try more conservative approaches. I give the tortoise vitamins and keep it indoors and warm, about 90 degrees at all times. If it is not eating, I place nutritious food in its mouth. When a desert tortoise quits eating for a while, you might want to force feed him in this manner. Be very careful when doing this because you could lose a finger. Grasp his head with your thumb and middle finger, and with your index finger. He will get a little nervous. Push down on his jaw and pop the food in. Have something nutritious, such as green beans or bananas. I can't emphasize enough that you should never let a sick turtle or tortoise hibernate. If you do so, it will probably never wake up. Sometimes a tortoise will begin dragging its back legs, and this can be caused by a large bladder stone, which calls for an X-ray. Females can become egg-bound and may need surgery if other measures taken to pass the eggs fail. Sometimes tortoises are infested with parasites, and I urge you to see your veterinarian if your tortoise is losing weight. If your tortoise or turtle is ever injured, please keep it indoors because maggots will infest its body and kill it. The trouble with turtles and tortoises is that you don't notice anything wrong until the turtle dies. Even the most careful keeper can miss subtle signs of illness. Some things to watch out for are basking at night. Turtles and tortoises always go in a shelter at night, and if they're sitting out, you know something is wrong. I've even had them come out of hibernation and just sit out in the cold, and I know that they're sick when they do that. Water turtles sometimes have a collapsed lung, and you can detect this by watching as they swim. They will float with one side down. Also, if they have pneumonia, they will start gasping for air. Turtles and tortoises do the same thing at the same time every day. Of course, this changes as the seasons change, and any deviation from this normal pattern means something is wrong. So be alert, and you can probably detect illnesses before it's too late. You know a box turtle is sick when it looks like this. The eyes close. Sometimes there's white goop coming out of them. Sometimes they get quite swollen, and when the eyes are swollen, the turtle won't eat. Usually this is caused by a lack of vitamin A. So I'll show you how to open the turtle's mouth and put the vitamin A in it. I use drop a day. It has a very high A content and also vitamin D3, which is important for turtles. You need the cap of a pen. Not all turtles are very cooperative about this. It takes a lot of practice. And if you're doing it alone, you can sit like I am with the turtle between your knees. You just get the cap until you get it into the turtle's mouth. See how she's trying to bite it? And then put a few drops in her mouth as best you can. And do this every day. Then for the eyes, you could get a tube of antibiotic eye ointment from your veterinarian. And try to get that in the turtle's eyes. Try and get it in the eye, not just on the outside. A couple of times a day. Keep the turtle warmer than usual. And in a few weeks, he should be feeling like his old self again. If he's not, then you might want to check with a veterinarian. He might need antibiotics. It's not too easy opening a turtle's mouth, but sometimes you can poke it on the side. See how the mouth is opening? And then you can drop the vitamins or medicine in there. Or sometimes, if they're very stubborn, you can pull out their leg and they get so angry that they'll just open their mouth at you, and you can pop the vitamins right in. Be very careful doing this because they can pack quite a bite. A very common ailment of box turtles are neck lumps. You can see this starting right here. Now you can usually take care of this yourself, but I urge you to take the turtle to the veterinarian and he will show you how to do it, and then you can continue from there. Towards fall, your tortoise will eat less and will sleep more, and you'll know it's almost time for hibernation. You can't let your tortoise hibernate in the ground unless you live in the area near where he comes from. So you'll want to get a sturdy cardboard box ready and fill it with dry leaves, dry grass clippings, and make sure the leaves and grass clippings have never been exposed to insecticide or fertilizer, because this can poison your tortoise as he's sleeping in it. When your tortoise hasn't eaten for about a week, it's time to put him to sleep for the winter. So place him in the cardboard box with the dried leaves, grass clippings. If you don't have either of these, you can shred up a lot of newspaper. Place him in there, cover him up. They have to feel secure even during hibernation, and then close the box up. You can now place the box in the garage, up off the floor, away from drafts or rats. Or if you have a cool room in your house, you can put it in that room or in a cool closet. As long as he stays about 50 degrees, he'll be fine. Your tortoise will sleep for about 6 months, and I want you to check him every 2 weeks to make sure he doesn't have a runny nose or swollen eyes. American box turtles, except for the Florida box turtles, can safely be hibernated outdoors. Just make a nice big pile of grass in the corner, and about September you'll find them going in the grass pile and coming out of the grass pile, and by November, December they will be in there and they won't come out anymore. Some of them prefer to hibernate in the doghouse, and in that case you just take the grass clippings and leaves, dry leaves, and throw them in the doghouse with the turtles, and they'll be comfortable all winter. You don't have to worry about moistening the grass pile because there's enough humidity in the winter to keep it just right for them. Just make sure the grass pile is not in an area that floods heavily. Sometimes if a box turtle becomes ill during the winter, you'll find that he crawls out of this grass pile, so be aware of that. If you see one sitting out in the middle of winter not moving, you'll know he's not feeling well and he's telling you something. So bring him in the house, keep him warm, give him vitamins, and he should be okay. If your turtles live in an outdoor pond, which is an ideal setup, you don't have to worry about them. They'll hibernate at the bottom of the pond in the mud, or they'll climb out and hibernate in the dirt. But if you have them in a pool such as I do, all you have to do is get another pool or fashion some kind of cover and cover them up like this for the winter. You want to keep them dark and cool, and they'll sleep for about 2 to 3 months depending on your weather. Check them every few weeks to see if they have runny noses or swollen eyes. And if that's the case, well then take them in the house and treat them. If for some reason you don't want your turtle or tortoise to hibernate, just bring your tortoises in for the winter. Keep them warm and dry. Keep them eating. They won't eat as much. And I'd advise you to buy a Vitalite. It's very important for their health anytime they can't go out for a long period of time. Water turtles can be kept in a tub in your laundry room or wherever. Keep them warm, keep them feeding, and they should be okay until the springtime when they can go outside again. Thank you for visiting the Turtles and I today. There are many ways of taking care of turtles and tortoises, and what you have seen is my way, and I was delighted to share this information with you. Turtles and tortoises all over the world are becoming extinct because of man. We're absolutely destroying their natural habitats. The land is being used for mining, cattle grazing, home building, sheep grazing. The Army has training sessions on the tortoises' land. The tortoises are run over, the tortoises are shot, the baby tortoises are picked up by ravens and eaten. And there's not much we can do except contact our congressmen and let them know of our concerns. Write to the Fish and Game commissioners and let them know you're concerned. And also write to the Bureau of Land Management and tell them that you're concerned about the loss of tortoise habitat. I've recently heard that our wetlands are drying up due to water diversion, and that means the end of our pond turtles in California. So write to your legislators, let them know that you really care. These tortoises have been around for millions of years, and it's up to us to keep them here for another few million years. I'm here today to try to help you take care of your turtle and tortoise. I blew it. The food was no good. Dried ant eggs have no nutrition. And usually someone would put a piece of...
Okay, we gotta get rid of it.
I know, she's banging down there. Oh, it's Claude. It's just Jim.
Just
I was almost good too. Sometimes the male does not have that much concavity. I don't know how to say that. You can just forget that. What did I say that for? I forgot what I was going to say. You're rolling. Well, my brain is not rolling. Most diseases are caused by improper diet. So try to, see, I start adding things instead of just letting it lay. And since they are hardy, they don't really need to be that warm. I'm losing it right now, but I'll continue in a minute. Because Tarzan was walking over the light. Look at the camera or
yeah,
no?
just look at the camera. That one just a second. Look at the camera a little bit more.
Oh, I didn't think I was even on.
Well, you are.
Half and half?
Yeah,
It looks
okay.
good.
Does look good.
And I love this guy. He comes to the meetings. I want to know what happens, everyone, when I die. And it's now up to us to make sure they're here for a few more million years. You'll cut before that, I hope.